Hi, welcome to this series of reading and thinking through my book, Parenting with Purpose and African Wisdom. Just principles of intentional parenting. My name is Dr. Gladys Mwiti. I am a consulting clinical psychologist and a specialist in psychological trauma and CEO and founder of Oasis Africa, Center for Transformational Psychology and Trauma, headquartered here in Nairobi with work in Kenya and the region. The motivation behind this book is that in our clinic at Oasis Africa, we see many parents struggling with the stressors of parenting. I also speak in many forums, in churches, schools, and various organizations. And many parents are bemoaning the fact that they find parenting so difficult. And of course it is true, parenting is quite a challenge because many of us went to school to learn our professions. We learned how to be doctors, how to be teachers, how to be chefs, but no one ever trained us on parenting. And so no wonder it is a challenge. And no child is going to wait for the parent to learn how to bring them up. It is the parents themselves to become proactive so that they gain the skills of parenting. So what I decided to do was to put in this book principles of parenting. And so we have gone through various principles, and today we look at the principle of parents as passers of legacies. If we remember that you are passing legacies to our children, then we'll take it absolutely as a necessity to gain all the skills we need to bring up a child, because there is no room for repeat work. Now, in this book, we use African proverbs, African wisdom. It's a book made out of Africa. So African wisdom is always there to guide parents in parenting. And then we also use biblical proverbs because God, who is a creator, gives us wisdoms on how to bring up children. So the first African proverb, as we define, today we want to define legacy. The African proverb here comes from DRC, a place called Hema in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Wisdom is like fire. People take it from others. And then another proverb is a Swahili proverb from Kenya or Tanzania. Wealth, when used, comes to an end. Learning, when used, increases. And then the biblical proverb is from Proverbs 3, verse 13 to 14. Blessed is the man who finds wisdom, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. Let's look at the meaning of these proverbs. The first one, the Hema proverb. Wisdom is like fire. People take it from others. Comes from the Hema people of DRC, and it underlines the preciousness of wisdom. It is only in Africa where we talk of people taking fire from others. Elsewhere in this book, I discuss the reality that in the traditional African village, someone may not have a matchbox. And so people depend on one another for live embers to light a fire early in the morning. Someone will knock at your door because the night before, normally the last person to exit the fireplace pushes a log into the hot ashes, and the wood piece smolders through the night, leaving hot, rich coals ready to be scooped out and used to light the healthy fire the next day. However, alas, if someone forgot to hide that log in the hot ash, or if something puts off the remains of the fire the past night, the fireplace is cold in the morning, cold and lifeless. So with nothing to light the fire, the individual will knock on the door of their neighbor's house the following morning, bearing a piece of broken pot to bring the fire home. The request is, "Good morning, neighbor. My fire did not last through the night. Could I please have some of your embers?" Several hot coals later, the fire is passed on to the home and the cold fireplace comes alive. So this African proverb compares wisdom to the precious fire. Those without do not pretend that they can do with a cold fireplace. They humble themselves and seek the fire from others, just as those without wisdom should humble themselves and seek wisdom from others. Then we have the second African proverb, the Swahili one. Wealth when used comes to an end, learning when used increases. This comes from the Swahili people, a Bantu language, Kiswahili, and the first language of the Swahili people. This language is used in the African Great Lakes region and other parts of Southern Africa, including Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and even the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The wise saying underlines that wisdom comes from using the knowledge we have acquired, because we become wiser if we practice the truths of life. Wealth, if used, reduces, but when knowledge and learning are used, they increase and grow into wisdom. This is the secret of passing wisdom to the children, because wealth can end in poverty, but wisdom cannot. It multiplies when used for living. Then we have the biblical proverb. Blessed is the man who finds wisdom, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. This summarizes the reality that blessings abide for anyone who discovers the benefits of wisdom and invests in acquiring it more than attaining the accolades that come with wealth. The Bible, of course, underlines the fact that true wisdom comes from obeying God's law. He alone is the source of true insight. This is clarified in Psalm 19, verse 9 and 10, that says, "The ordinances of the Lord are sure and altogether righteous. They are more precious than gold, than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey from the honeycomb." These are the legacies parents of purpose, intentional parents, seek to pass to their children. So a legacy is defined as money or property. If you look up the definition, money or property left to someone in a will, or anything handed down from an ancestor to a descendant. But in the context of this book, we want to emphasize the second meaning and expand on the definition to include anything precious, anything of precious value that a parent determines worthy to pass on to the child. The proverb above about taking fire from the other people is a truly African experience of this desire. Now, the reason for alluding to anything of precious value passed on by a parent to a child is that, first, not everyone will have concrete, valuable items to leave to a child, especially in Africa, where many people live a hand-to-mouth existence. Secondly, tangible treasures quickly vanish in the hands of a child who has no lasting principles. History is littered with these stories of treasures that have been left in the hands of naive descendants. And these are said to have been blown away. The children blow away the inheritance in only a few months or years after the passing of their rich parents. All too soon, the massive wealth disappears in the hands of children with no wisdom. Other families have been left also embroiled in court cases over the management of the dead parents' estate. Instead of unity in sorrow, there is hatred, murder, and competition between kin. Sometimes some children have wished quick passing away of rich parents so that they can inherit the wealth that has been denied them as they matured. In some cases, the parents have been too busy making money to really invest in a relationship with their children, leaving behind bitterness and anger because money that cannot buy love created a vacuum of despondency. On the other hand, many lazy sons who are more intent on drugs, alcohol, flashy living, and womanizing than in working hard as a parent has done, surround hard-working fathers. It follows that legacies must be defined by attributes beyond money and property. They must be seen to mean non-tangible values and the principles that prepare human beings for living, not mere existence. Someone is saying that it is indeed easier to make money than to grow children who have what it takes to live and thrive in a competitive world. Our focus in this chapter is values that build and foundations that last. A wise man in the book of Proverbs gave various pieces of advice to his son, emphasizing on the foundations of life. For example, he pointed out some critical values like the legacy of obedience. In society where breaking the law is becoming the norm, obedience assumes a critical meaning. How can lawmakers break the very law they created? We see that happening often. Lawyers steal from clients. Doctors cheat parents after swearing the Hippocratic oath to treat the ill to the best of one's ability and to preserve the patient's privacy. Teachers assist students to cheat in examinations, and policemen, stewards of the law, steal from the public. In times like these, obedience becomes a critical legacy for parents, first to live it themselves and then to model it and pass it on to their children. And so those are some of the things in this book. We have defined legacy, and we shall continue looking at some of the legacies I propose that we as parents pass them to our children with purpose and with intention. Continue reading. Get a copy of this book from Oasis Africa, from bookshops in Nairobi, or even from Amazon. God bless you. Let's keep reading. Bye.